Welcome back to the Gus and Dave Show. Or previously Gus and Dave Show. This is actually our very first episode. We just rebranded, we renamed the show. It's the Real Improvement Show going forward. And the goal here is to provide as much value when it comes to real estate for, current homeowners, future homeowners. We talk about different topics and things of that nature. So I want to welcome, the audience and the listeners to our show. That said, we do have an extremely special guest. We are, very honored to have you here today. Thank you so much. Dave, if you don't mind, go ahead and introduce our guest today.
I'd love to. Absolutely. We are joined today by Pete Piringer, who is the chief spokesperson for Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service. As far as introductions go, quite frankly, Pete, I want to kind of turn it over to you and welcome you and thank you so much for being here. And maybe you could start by telling us a little bit how you got there. How does one become the chief spokesperson for MCFRS?
Well, and you didn't even have to call 911 to get me.
I didn't. It was great. It was perfect.
Of course, I've been in the business for a long time. I grew up in Prince George County in College Park.
Oh, nice.
And I was a member of the fire department there as a teenager in high school. So I've been involved quite a while and still involved with the volunteer fire department there. In fact, I'm president of the College Park Volunteer Fire Department.
Excellent.
Where I've been for 50 years. You believe that?
You don't look like you could be anywhere for 50 years.
Crazy, I know. Very fortunate. Of course, I've worked in Montgomery County since 2001, but after 25 years in Prince George's County Fire Department, a few years with the state police, I went to firehouse.com for a short time. Went to D.C. Fire Department in my middle of my career here in Montgomery County. I left for 5 years, city of Laurel, but then I was able to come back. So. And you can imagine, 30 years ago in the 70s or 80s, media was a lot different. We didn't have social media, for example. Media was a lot different, and we didn't have necessarily public information officers per se.
Right.
But so I've kind of grown with that and had to learn along the way. But, that's how I ended up basically in Montgomery County. And, we've great community, obviously, and the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service, we're blessed to have a lot of resources here in Montgomery County. Demographics are such, it's a great place to live and work. And we are just very fortunate to have those resources. And I think that and the community is very educated and attentive in that sense. So it's very safe in that regard. So, we're very fortunate in that way.
That's fantastic. And in terms of like some of your major responsibilities, right? So for example, I was just reading an article, you were quoted in an article as it pertained to that fire, that unfortunate event that happened in Dickerson, the house with the snakes and all that. Is that a lot of what you do, is dealing with media and making sure that the press release goes out? And tell me about that.
Yeah, that's really my main focus it all started just being the liaison with media.
Sure.
Spokesperson basically is one of my main jobs. But certainly community engagement and public education, community risk reduction is what we call it now. But we have public service educators, and we deal with the school system, business community, people like yourselves.
Sure.
But also, the media is one of my main jobs. And, you can get a message, educational learning moment across, with the media. Of course, they've changed quite a bit as well, and a lot of it is social media, so the number of different platforms that we like to engage with. But, it used to be you used to have to go out to the town meeting or the civic meeting or to the school, and, you have a relatively small group, and you do that a number of times.
Sure.
But now we have opportunities with social media and many different platforms to reach a wide variety of people. And so it's really the news cycle, which, back when I first started, there was, 15 minutes in the morning news and 6 o'clock in the evening and 11 o'clock. Of course, now we know it's all around the clock, every day, every hour.
Now, have you found that your job has gotten easier or harder as, technology and media platforms, things like Zoom, for example, has that helped or hurt?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
So, it is a lot easier to, in one sense, to get the word out to a lot of different audiences, people that we wouldn't typically have reached, years ago. But it makes it harder also. I'm an old guy, and some of that new technology is, troublesome to me. But,
sure.
So it's changing every day. Yeah. So it's hard to keep up with that aspect of it. But that makes it hard, and certainly people are engaged, and if it's if it's out there, it's out there.
Yeah.
I'm personally not surprised that people find out things, whatever it is, or have questions about whatever it is. I'm not really surprised or taken back by anything because, that's just the way it is these days.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Absolutely. I want to shift gears real quick because again, the goal here is to provide homeowners as much value as we can. Obviously, fires and things of that nature, I feel like they don't get talked about often. Dave and I both deal with homeowners on a daily basis, and, we don't really hear those conversations much. In your opinion, what are some of the common mistakes that homeowners actually make that cause fires?
Well, it's a long list, but it's it's kind of, that's a good thing people aren't talking about it because nobody thinks their house is going to catch on fire. They're going to experience a fire, but statistically, in your lifetime, you will experience probably 3 fires, 3 significant events.
Wow.
Personally, or someone close to you. It does happen. So what we try to do is just educate people to have a plan, think about it ahead of time. Have an exit drill in your home, for an example. Kids do it in schools and so forth. Certainly, this last year, 2020 anyway, and 2021 for that matter, people are working at home. Their offices are in their home. They're plugging a bunch of stuff in. Kind of things shifted a little bit. Their lifestyles maybe changed a little bit. So we hope that they think that, incorporate fire safety into that, all that, everything there, all those changes. But that being said, the top 4 causes of fire are cooking is number 1, year-round. Typically this time of year, starting around Thanksgiving, for obvious reasons.
Sure.
That becomes the number 1 cause of fire. Then it kind of shifts to heating equipment or those things related to heating, wood stoves, fireplaces, furnaces, and usually combustibles too close to the heating system.
Yeah.
Electrical systems, and those things associated with electrical, like the power strips and so forth.
He's only got a couple things plugged in. We're okay.
I was watching very carefully when I'm like,
I saw that.
And then candles and and smoking materials, basically. Open flames. So those are the leading causes of fire. And then I'm always asked, when something happens like the snake thing.
Sure.
Have you ever seen that before? Well, I feel like the farmer insurance guy. I know a lot because I've seen a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
But
for better or for worse,
it's
right?
like nothing really surprises me anymore. And quite honestly, I have seen a lot of things, but some are accidents, some are just. I would never call any of our residents stupid, but they just make mistakes of some sort or didn't think it through.
Sure.
Sometimes, but so from a homeowner's point of view, I mean, we're blessed in Montgomery County that all new homes built are going to have residential sprinkler systems.
Absolutely.
That is huge in us, and we hope that and that's probably has a lot to do with why people don't think about fires. Nobody's ever died in a fire that has had a sprinkler presence.
Wow.
So,
I didn't know that. Wow.
How is that system any different? So what makes it unique? How is that better from?
Well, different from not having one. Is the main difference. But a sprinkler system is like having a firefighter in your room with a hose ready to go.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
And personally, I would rather have a sprinkler system that will discharge a couple gallons of water and extinguish a fire than a bunch of 200-pound firefighters kicking the door down with a hose that's going to squirt about 130 gallons a minute.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Again, I came from Prince George's County, which was the first jurisdiction in this area, but one of the first in the country to require all newly constructed homes to have sprinkler systems. Of course, Montgomery County does that as well, as well as townhouses and that sort of thing. So that's a good thing. And then, the smoke alarms have been around for decades. it's law, and that's something that the new homes, when somebody moves in, that probably supposed to have those on every level.
And not only that, I mean, the law just changed. Just 3, almost 4 years ago, to where not only do they have to be there, but they have to be less than 10 years old, and if they're hardwired, they got to make sure. We see a lot of times where smoke detectors are supposed to be hardwired, but people don't want to deal with it, so they just get the battery operated and screw it into place. So I think that things have changed for the better, where we're now requiring people to actually make sure they're in compliance, which is awesome.
Yeah, and you think about the security systems people have,
Sure.
and the interconnectivity of smoke alarms, burglar alarms, cameras, they have in their home. So that's all good stuff.
Yeah.
And but you kind of said it. People don't think about it, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
But the 10-year long life batteries sealed. So you can't take the batteries out and put it in the toy at Christmas,
right,
or whatever. And then when you do have a fire, it doesn't work. That used to be, it was just tragic. It used to be like almost every fatal fire we had, come in, they didn't have a working smoke alarm. They took the battery out because, they were annoyed by
the chirp
cooking or whatever.
Yeah.
And, so those are all good things. That's all technology. But from a real estate point of view, the newer homes in Montgomery County, will have sprinkler systems, so that should be a major selling point. It is
absolutely.
Smoke alarms, fire protection, of course, and then you have excellent fire protection system here in Montgomery County. We're pretty robust in our response capabilities in everywhere, and hopefully that's why people don't think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny. My kids think about it all the time. If we're driving by that intersection and the light turns red and they see the trucks pulling out, they know right away that somebody needs help, and those guys and those ladies are going to help somebody. I think it's awesome.
Well, and unfortunately, we did have a fatal fire in Carter Rock, Bethesda, Potomac area just the other night. Elderly couple with mobility issues. They were in an older home. They'd lived there for a long time. So obviously they didn't have a sprinkler system. Smoke alarms were there.
Right.
But they kind of had an electrical fire, caught the couch on fire. But, I hear it all the time that from people, victims and people that experience fires, it's like how fast the fire grows, catches people by surprise.
Yeah.
I know how fast it is, but the rule of thumb is a fire will double in size every minute.
Is that right?
Wow.
So if you picture, if you will, for a moment, you have a trash, throw a cigarette butt in the trash can.
Right.
Trash can's on fire. Oh, the trash can's on fire. Okay, that's a very manageable situation.
Sure.
But usually what happens is I'll go get a bucket of water. Go out, you leave the door open. Gets a little air. It takes you a minute or two. You come back. Well, now the chair and that other combustible materials. It's whoa, throw it on it. I'm going to go get another.
Right.
And then it just it only takes a couple minutes. That's why it's imperative that people just call us right away. Get out, stay out, close the door behind them, and give us a chance to get there. If you have a sprinkler system, within a couple minutes, that will probably discharge and kind of handle things. But that's why it's important that response time. You talk about people seeing. If you see the light. We have all kinds of issues with traffic around here. Sometimes people in Montgomery County, everybody's got somewhere to go. And sometimes
it's one way to put it.
We see people take advantage of the emergency services. They say, "Oh, here comes the fire." People are pulling over, so they try to take advantage of it. We want you to hear us, see us, clear for us. So move to the closest shoulder of the road. Let us get to where we're going, because whether it's a heart attack, a medical emergency of some sort, or a fire, seconds, minutes count.
So let me ask you this, and this should not be a reason why somebody does not get out of the way, but I think that some people maybe sometimes think about those red light cameras, for example. They go through the intersection because the fire truck is behind them. Now all of a sudden they're hit with a ticket, $40, whatever, no big deal. Let's get out of the way so we can, get these people the help that they need. Are those, to your knowledge, are those challengeable? So, they're getting out of the way of an emergency vehicle. They've got to go through the intersection. They suddenly get flashed. Is that something that can be challenged, or do you just recommend, just suck it up and pay the ticket? I know that some people maybe have a concern about that kind of a thing. And they shouldn't. They should just get out of the way. But I'm just,
Absolutely.
Let's call it what it is, right?
Yeah. Tell it to the judge.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a good reason. to get a ticket. That's the only reason why you should get a red light ticket.
I think so.
Yeah.
Tell it to the judge. You heard
Tell
it
it
here
to the
first,
judge.
folks. You
There
heard it
we
here
go.
first. I like it.
So going back to homeowners real quick. So for the ones that don't have that sprinkler system, what are some of the things that they can do to, sometimes what's the average time for the fire engine to arrive to the scene? 4 or 5 minutes?
Yeah, and it really depends. Montgomery County is 500 square miles. We have
Sure.
a large area of the agricultural reserve, for an example, which the fire stations are further between each other.
Sure.
And so our response times are a little more in certain areas.
Absolutely. But I guess, is there anything that they can do? I mean, is there a law or a rule or code to have a fire extinguisher at home?
Yeah, we don't advocate fire extinguishers unless you've been trained.
Interesting.
Got it.
We
Okay.
don't want you to mess around with it and waste time or get hurt unless you've been trained. Obviously, fire extinguishers can make a difference.
Sure.
In the scenario that I described, you could easily put a fire out or a fire on the stovetop out with a fire extinguisher.
Sure.
But we want you to have the training. If you don't mess around with it. Just call us, close the door.
Okay.
Probably the biggest thing when you go to sleep at night, close the door, close the kid's door. That gives you time to survive a fire if you have one. It keeps the smoke and the flames and all that out. And now the newer homes, you have smoke alarms on every level, so there shouldn't be a concern about not hearing the smoke alarm or whatever.
And they're interconnected too, so if it's going off on one, you're hearing it all. You're hearing it everywhere.
But closing the door can really make a difference, a life-saving difference. But also, it kind of interrupts the flow of air.
Yeah.
So if you have a fire and it's big fire, if you're leaving, close the door behind you. It's not going to impede us any when we get there. But so closing the door. Most of the fires start in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm. Most of the fires start in the kitchen.
Well,
Okay.
just
because you can't cook, Gus. That's what the problem is.
well,
That's very true.
I'm not sure if they're teaching home economics anymore, but I wish they would. And most of the fires are because cooking unattended.
Yeah.
So there's some things you can do, like if you have a fire in the oven, close the door, turn it off, make sure the oven door's closed.
Interesting.
If you have
Okay.
a stovetop fire, put a lid on it. Grease fire, whatever, cookie sheet or a lid, put the lid on it, turn off the heat or gas or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that can make a big difference. But just have a plan, but watch it. Watch it.
Absolutely.
I would think some of the challenge, you mentioned a grease fire, for example. I think people think fire, they automatically think water, right? So I think that sometimes maybe is a contributing factor. So I've heard you mention it. I think that the biggest thing is just, quite frankly, dial those digits and get out of the house, right? That's what you guys are there for.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right, but that's, obviously you've thought about that. Grease and fire don't mix very well, so we hope that people know that. But also you can put a lid on it.
Sure.
If you have a grease fire, it just takes the air, oxygen out of it. A fire triangle, you need air for a fire in most cases. And, so just if you have a plan, think about it, know 2 ways out of every room, practice it and discuss it, and, that can make a big difference.
Yeah. Do you find, we were talking about sprinkler systems. Have you found, sprinkler systems failing due to neglected maintenance? Are there things people should be doing or looking at in terms of, preventative maintenance on those systems?
Just like anything else, you follow the manufacturer's instructions.
Sure.
Properly maintained. Now, we have had, tragedies or near tragedies when people don't maintain them and for whatever reason the sprinkler system may not have worked.
Right.
Typically, that's more so in commercial establishments where you have bigger systems, different systems, type of systems that aren't maintained. But, our code enforcement people, look after those things. But as a homeowner, so you have to be properly maintained. Make sure you don't hang decorations from the sprinkler heads or whatever.
I like to hang the hanger, the clothes hanger, right?
Yeah, we know.
You might want to change your habits a little bit, Dave.
So I should go on and say my home is old enough. Unfortunately, I don't have a sprinkler system. However, if I did, I would not hang the clothes from the
There you go.
But one thing that you might be interested in, is if you're a homeowner in Montgomery County, you can get a one-time incentive, 50% of your property tax for a sprinkler system if you retrofit your home
No
for
kidding.
a sprinkler system. So for a lot of us, that's quite
Absolutely.
a savings. And it will usually pay for the system. It's not cheap to retrofit something.
Sure.
Sure not.
But if you were, usually a couple years, it pays for itself. And, the peace of mind of the fact that people aren't going to, nobody's going to die
Yeah.
because your home is now protected with a sprinkler system. So,
And you said that's 50% of the property tax
Property
value.
tax.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That's pretty significant, actually.
Yeah.
I'd never heard that before.
Me either.
That's really good information.
Me either. That's a good
For
selling point, too.
retrofit.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about those new systems, I remember, I've never experienced it, thank goodness, but I remember hearing about, it used to be one sprinkler head goes off, they all go off. Well, now it's, one sprinkler head goes off, it's concentrated in that room. The rest of
Correct.
them are not necessarily going off, which is really nice.
Well, it's really always been that way, but
has it?
except in Hollywood.
Oh, okay.
That's a different story.
And also, the firefighters walk in.
Right.
Yeah,
Dakota,
right. Yep.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell's face and everything, But
I watch that show 911 religiously,
yeah. But yeah. So typically, it's just one. They're operated by heat sense, basically. So it's just going to be where this fire is.
Interesting.
And it's just a couple gallons of water can usually handle most fires. So if you have multiple sprinkler heads go off in a real fire, you've had a big hot fire.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And unlike when I first started, decades ago, a lot of the materials in our home were natural materials.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're pretty much all synthetic.
Yeah.
Correct.
And they burn fast and they're hot.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to be, when I first got started in the 70s, that you had 15 minutes or so to escape and get out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have 3 minutes.
No kidding.
So that's how important it is. Get out, stay out, close the door. Have a plan. Think about it ahead of time. If you're reacting to it without previously thinking about it, you're probably going to have some issues.
Yeah.
So think about it ahead of time and know what you'll do in an emergency.
Pete, I think that's so smart. I think that so many of us don't think about that, right? You've said it. Nobody thinks it's going to happen to them. And I think that we fail to plan because we don't think it's going to happen to us. And like I've got 2 young kids at home, right? The last thing I would want is anything tragic happening to me, whatever, my little girls. That's a whole nother story, So I think that makes a really good point that preparation is probably going to save all kinds of lives,
And how old are your kids?
My kids are 6 and 4.
So, we do a lot with the schools because we know the kids will annoy the heck out of their parents about checking smoke alarms and escape plans. So hopefully, they'll bring the message home to you. But so we focus on that a lot. But, also, not only smoke alarms are important, but carbon monoxide detectors also. A lot of our homes now have new technology or, attached garages and things of that nature. So, carbon monoxide is a silent killer.
Yeah.
You don't smell it, you don't see it. You
That's right.
know it's around. So that's why carbon monoxide detectors are so important.
Well, and a lot of these homes have, gas heat, for example, right? Or gas fireplaces or,
And, a lot of the newer homes are energy efficient.
Sure.
They're tight. And, that stuff's going to stay in there. So carbon monoxide is it's a time and distance thing, so the more you're exposed to it. Mm-hmm. So typically, it's all around us every day, but, we're in and out the door, the doors and windows, that's enough to alleviate any kind of exposure, short-time exposure.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So that's, carbon monoxide alarms and a number of lives I think have been saved because of the laws that and the guidelines we have in place for those now.
That's awesome. You mentioned, you guys having a big role in the schools. I'm curious, do you guys have any specific community events coming up that maybe parents could bring kids to and things like that to get a little bit of fire education?
Yeah, we do a lot virtually now.
Sure.
Changed a lot in 2020. We love our schools and, the firefighters like going out and showing the fire trucks, having that educational moment. But
touch of trucks and all that.
Yeah, so it's really case by case these days, but we do have some virtual capabilities. And just today we were down at Daly Elementary School in the Germantown area, talking to outside kids at the bus stop, talking about some pedestrian safety and bus stop safety. They have some issues with traffic and, at this one particular bus stop, 100 kids, over 100 kids get on a couple buses. And so you can imagine the parents dropping them off. The kids are just, all hanging out, getting with their friends and all that. So we're just trying to give them some safety messaging there, and always take advantage of any chance we get. But it's difficult these days to have people in our fire stations in large groups anyway, and to be in the schools without certain restrictions.
So if somebody wanted you to, I mentioned I've got 2 kids. One of them happens to be in first grade. How do you get involved with going to a particular school? Is it just an arrangement with the school? Do the parents get involved? Like if I wanted you to go to my daughter's school and give a presentation, for example, how does something like that get worked out?
Well, just how I kind of ended up here. It's like somebody knows somebody else, whatever. But we have a long partnership with the school system, private and public schools, and a lot of us in the volunteer service or even career service. Kids go to school and teachers ask, "Hey, can you come in and do a career day or touch a truck or whatever?" So it's really nowadays case by case, but we have a long-standing partnership with the school system, and a lot of civic groups. Our community engagement, it's very high on the chief's priority. His whole philosophy is prevent the 911 call.
Yeah.
So education, public education has a lot to do with that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I got to imagine getting the kids involved is huge on that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, my kids, we have 4 kids, 3 of which go to Montgomery County public schools, and the younger ones, they're 2nd and 5th grade. They constantly come home, talk about the drills at school, and they talk about the escape plan at school and at home, and so on and so forth. So they get a lot of value out of those educational moments, if you will. And I think, the more we talk about this stuff, the more I feel like there isn't enough awareness. And correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you guys do a great job spreading, the education and spreading the word and things like that. But I still feel like there needs to be more of these topics talked about, not just in schools, but amongst, families and things like that. Is there a YouTube channel? Is there any educational where the average homeowner or the average, person that can go to and get themselves educated on something as simple as operating a fire extinguisher? I'm honestly very surprised because, you see them on shelves everywhere, right? You walk into Costco, they're $25 on the shelf, right? Do I just pick one up and take it home? And obviously now I know no, it's not the case, right? I need to get trained on it. But is there somewhere where I can go and get the proper training on something like that?
Yeah. There's a lot of different resources available in every community in Montgomery County, and whether it be Red Cross or private businesses or the fire rescue department, police department. We all have resources and things that we do in the community, and we do some fire extinguisher training. I know the Red Cross does it. And a lot of this is done virtually nowadays too. I think one big thing in Montgomery County that might be advantageous to homeowners, residents, is that you can call 311 for everything. And if you need any information in Montgomery County, 311. But if you want a home safety evaluation from a uniformed firefighter, we used to come out in 2019, for an example. We would come out to your home, walk through, point out some things to you, and if you had some questions, so on and so forth. We do that virtually now, but we also, in case by case, if need be, we still come out to the home in person. But if you want a home safety evaluation about checking your smoke alarms, looking at your water heater, talking about escape plans, your outlets, whatever. You can call 311 and request that, and we'll, that's one service that we do provide.
Absolutely. Now, also when it comes to codes, real quick, I know the codes recently have changed. For example, in the wet areas, like around the kitchen sink, around I think the bathroom code hasn't changed as much as the kitchen. Correct me if I'm wrong, but where more GFI receptacles and outlets need to be installed, and I feel like again there isn't enough awareness that people don't keep up with this stuff, right? Like if someone has been in the same home for 15, 20 years, unless they invite an inspector to do a very thorough inspection and make sure everything is up to code, which most people don't, they don't know. And I feel like they don't go out to gain that knowledge. And so everything remains the same and becomes, the same fire. It remains the same fire hazard that it's always been.
I think they usually find out when they're trying to sell the house.
They sure do.
Or when you're moving in.
Right.
But,
right.
Yes, you're absolutely right about codes, and I'm not up on it.
I got you.
Myself, the codes in Montgomery County are the Department of Permitting Services.
Sure.
Even the fire marshal's office is a part of the Department of Permitting Services now.
Sure.
But that being said, the laws and code for smoke alarms have changed.
Sure.
And not everybody's really up to speed on that, but we try. It depends on when your home was built and type of home, so on and so forth. But the simple answer is have a smoke alarm on every level of your home.
Yeah.
In the hallways and in the bedrooms. If your home was to be built today, it would be interconnected, bedrooms, hallways, every level.
Yeah.
So that's what we recommend.
What about carbon monoxide?
Same thing with carbon monoxide.
Okay.
The importance there, if you have any kind of fuel burning appliance, water heater, fireplace, gas stove, that all produces carbon monoxide. But if you have an attached garage, it's also required. So
interesting.
Those are now required in all homes.
Yeah.
So that is an important thing. So that's just the simple alarm system. So you talked about the electrical systems.
Sure.
And if you think about how we live nowadays, especially with people working at home or having home offices and made some adjustments, power strips and extension cords just give us a convenience of, we have a plug over there.
Right.
But we're operating over here.
Sure.
But typically the appliance has the appropriate size cord to it, and we want you to plug it directly into the wall. That's preferred.
Okay.
So, a power strip does not give you more power. It just gives you the convenience of plugging a few things in. I think that's where people kind of make a mistake, is they use that extension cords and power strips as a permanent solution to more stuff. It doesn't give you more power.
Yeah.
Your home's still going to have the same load and issues with it, same circuitry.
Is that considered a fire hazard?
Yeah, I would think so.
I've seen people connect, power strips to power strips to power strips to connect more things.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've seen that too, but it's usually in a burned out room.
That's right.
So, those generate heat. You can operate it safely if it's just a temporary thing.
Sure.
But if you use like all of us do, probably use extension cords, as a permanent solution to something. But
sure,
if again, major appliances, you shouldn't use extension cords. The appliances have the appropriate size extension or cord attached to them, and sometimes a 3 prong plug as well. So
that's why my refrigerator isn't sitting in the middle of the floor.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who'd have guessed, right?
So I mean, those are things, but getting back to homeowners and what they can do is, housekeeping, keep clutter away. This time of year when we have I call it transitional season, when you have some warm days and cold days, and then, a couple cold days and running the heat forever, and we're not quite into it yet, haven't made that transition. We still got stuff laying around in the utility room up against the furnace or whatever.
Yep.
That's very it's a very dangerous time of year for us.
Absolutely.
But basically, housekeeping, keep clutter away from any kind of heat source. Keep that circle of safety. It's typically 3 feet. From any heat source of any kind. Candles. Just think of all the ceremonies and festivities right now, this time of year, that deal with candles.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that how nice candles are, and are what. Well, I like a scented candle.
Yeah, sure.
But just people will fall asleep or they run out for whatever reason, leave a candle burning, and typically will catch some nearby combustibles on fire. And then, so we don't like anything with open flames. They do have candles now that are flameless and they're battery operated.
Yeah.
And some of them even provide some scents.
Absolutely.
I can't tell you how many times I've gone to show a house and maybe the seller had been there, but they run out because the showing is coming, and sure enough, there's a candle burning in the basement.
Yeah.
I mean, countless times.
It's for ambiance.
Well, of course.
Sure.
The ambiance is different when the house is burned to the ground, though, right? It's a different ambiance in that sense.
That's for sure.
Different scent.
That's for sure.
That's true.
So that's just that kind of thing. Just kind of don't any open flame. Do not.
Yeah.
Open flames make us nervous. But
Yeah.
and we've had a couple of fires also that have been caused by ashes. Fireplace ashes or wood stove or fire pit ashes.
Wow.
Where people mistakenly, it might be cold out.
Mm-hmm.
I had fire last night, fire's out. Put the ashes in a bag or plastic box. It's cold, so, I usually put them away, but I'll just put them on the deck. I'll take care of it later.
Right.
A little bit of air gets to it, it flames up. They retain heat for days.
No kidding.
It's probably better just to leave them where they are, for a while. But so proper disposal of ashes, metal can, galvanized can with a tight lid, away from anything that not on the deck, not in the carport, not in the garage, not next to the wood pile.
Right.
Somewhere where it's not near anything with a tight lid on it.
He said days. I'll tell you, that throws me off because, and I believe it, but it you just put like a little bit of fear in me, right? I have a wood burning fireplace in my house. That's my favorite feature in my house. And I make a habit when I clean out the fireplace, usually it'll have been, 2 or 3 days since that fire burned before I'll even take the shovel to the ashes.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking I maybe need to wait even another, day or two past that.
Yeah. What's your address?
123 Main Street. Right?
They'll be there for you.
That's right.
I met somebody else that lives there.
Yeah, right.
We're roommates.
All kidding aside, though,
Of course.
That sound, you haven't had any issue with it, but if you put
thank goodness.
Wherever you put them, if you put some water on them, soak them,
Yeah.
that can help alleviate that problem. But and that's what we recommend: a galvanized metal can with tight lid, maybe with a little bit of water on it.
Yeah.
After a couple of days is fine, obviously, but not in a paper bag, not in a plastic bag, not the recycling bin. We've already had 3 or 4 fires, and also chimneys. Same thing this time of year. Maybe they haven't used their fireplace for a while. We recommend you get it looked at, cleaned annually if you can. But it depends on how much you use it really. But we had a huge house in Potomac. They had a fire in their fireplace, and I don't know exactly what went wrong, but I suspect that it was an old brick and mortar fireplace. Probably had deteriorated over the years. Some heat seeped out into the attic. Huge house. They're having a fire in the fireplace a couple hours before that, still going on. And a neighbor, hey, your roof's on fire. They had cedar shake roof.
Wow.
And we suspect that there's probably a deterioration of the chimney. Got some heat out into the attic. It burned undetected for a while. So. And then we have the inserts that you see nowadays. If they're not properly maintained or insulated,
right,
or it depends on how much you use it or what you're burning in the fireplace, can make a difference on how hot it gets. And typically that will we've seen it already a couple times this year where it catches nearby combustibles on fire, and it will burns through and then gets in the vinyl siding or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So fireplaces, wood stoves, need to be inspected, looked at, cared for. But the ashes, getting rid of the ashes is very critical.
That's very interesting. I'm glad we're talking about this stuff.
So if we can, we're talking about that kind of stuff, especially given the time of year we're in. We are in that time of year where we are now in holiday season, right? I'm curious what you guys are seeing, or maybe what some preventative tips could be as far as the fire and rescue service is concerned, obviously we see people, celebrating Christmas and Christmas trees and Christmas lights and candles burning. And, regardless of what holiday you're celebrating this time of year, it's a festive time of year and lots of celebrations. And, what are you guys seeing? What should people be seeing? What should we be looking out for? I mean, obviously it's, making a plan and thinking ahead, but are there some, are there some do's and don'ts that maybe we're not thinking about, or maybe we just need a little bit more reinforcement on?
Yeah, so as I already had suggested, it really starts ramping up around Thanksgiving, and people get in that holiday mood, and cooking is we've already kind of talked about that a little bit, but you've probably noticed that some people before Thanksgiving, but like the day after, Christmas lights were going up.
They're up
and other things.
Halloween. I mean,
so things aren't as they usually are.
Right.
So decorations, whatever the celebration might be, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa.
Sure.
There's a lot of different celebrations that deal with lights, whether it be electrical lights or candles. So you just need to make sure that they're in good shape and inspected. If you're still using the lights that Grandma had on her Christmas tree, you maybe ought to switch over to some new LED ones. They're not that expensive, but so just be mindful of that. But the decorations we hang up and put on the mantle or whatever sometimes are combustible, and just need to keep heat sources or be mindful of where the heat sources are. If you have a live tree, just keep it watered. It's pretty simple. They smell great and they can be perfectly safe. We don't have that many fires involving Christmas trees per se, but when we do, it's bad. So it's important to keep it watered. And if you think about, we have a couple fire stations that sell Christmas trees. They're practically all sold out. So people have already bought the trees. But if you think about they came from Western Maryland or New England or North Carolina or whatever, they were cut, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Those trees are thirsty.
Yeah. So, you need to keep them watered.
For sure.
And, maybe we'll have another conversation, after the beginning of the year, because, some people keep their trees up for
till Easter, right?
Yeah. A couple of years ago, we did for the heck of it, we did a fire safety demo using an artificial tree, and we caught on fire, and it caught us by surprise because they don't catch on fire easy,
right?
But once they do, it's not a good thing.
Really,
I mean, think about it. They're plastics,
or
petroleum-based products.
Absolutely, the vinyl, and stuff like that. Yeah,
it was a nasty fire, and so they need care also. Just don't think, you don't have to worry about it if you have an artificial tree. And it's usually not the tree per se; it's all the stuff we got around it and stuff we have on it. So, and it just brings I did a story the other evening on with Shamari Stone from Channel 4 about there's a apartment complex in Rockville that are not allowing their residents to have live trees.
Yep.
I don't want to be the Grinch here, but I think that's a good thing. But but it is and it isn't. But if you take care of it, you can have that, and some people obviously have for years. But it's kind of a good thing. But it's a fire safety thing. It's just extra load. Like I said, if you do have an event, it's usually not good. Those buildings obviously are sprinklered as well.
Sure.
But still, bad stuff can happen.
Absolutely.
I love it. That's great information.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of candles. We already talked about that a little bit, but 1/3 of the home decoration fires are started by candles. More than half of the home decoration fires in December are started by candles.
Wow.
The top 3 days of home candle fires are Christmas Day, New Year's Day, and New Year's Eve.
No kidding. That makes sense.
So how are you feeling about candles now? So,
right.
They still smell good, but
the Christmas trees fires are not. I already talked about they're not common, but when they do occur, they're very dangerous. And on average, 1 of every 52 reported home Christmas tree fires result in a death. Wow. That's across the country, of course.
Wow.
So, the good thing is they don't happen very often.
Sure.
And then, we talked about the heat sources too close to the Christmas tree, but that is causes about 1 in every 4 winter fires is combustible Christmas tree too close to the heat source.
Right.
Is there anything that, I mean, we've talked about so much stuff today, and all of it is obviously really, really good information. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to make sure that message gets out?
Well, we've covered a lot of territory, I think,
sure.
but, certainly if you can live in a home that has sprinkler system, do it. My daughter and her husband and family built and lived in a house in Poolsville, new home, sprinklers.
Very nice.
I don't worry about them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not at all from a fire safety perspective.
Sure.
So that really gives me peace of mind, but that's what I do.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm sure they don't even probably think twice about, that aspect of it, although they've heard me say,
I'm sure you've drilled it in enough, right?
so don't worry about it. You got a sprinkler.
That's right.
But, so if you have an opportunity to live in a place with a sprinkler system, do it. Otherwise, we're all busy, but if you have the ability to think ahead of time, and some of that is planning, and also it's emergency preparedness in general. Like what to do in an emergency.
What should people do?
Run. No, I'm just kidding.
What are some of the best practices? Some of the best practices.
Well, there's so many different types of emergencies. Where I was going to go with that was, have an emergency or disaster kit in your home.
Got it.
Mostly what we have to worry about in this region are power outages. But we would advocate having a safety kit, stuff to eat and drink and medicine and, just kind of, an opportunity to, if you get kids games or pet toys or whatever, just stuff that, you can entertain yourself for 3 days without power. Now doesn't happen very often around here.
Right.
But, that's probably, as opposed to earthquakes and hurricanes and things like that.
Yes. Natural disasters.
You might have, big natural disasters in other parts of the country, but, just have a kit that, you can run and go if you need be, or, if you have to evacuate or leave your home for a while, you have some stuff you can take with you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So have a disaster kit, and have a plan. And part of that should be a plan, a communication plan, who you're going to notify, contacts, things like that. If you have a family or a neighborhood network, that can help you out in certain situations.
Absolutely.
Like, a lot of the fires we have recently where, there might be some kids involved. So take the kids to a neighbor's house while you're dealing with the emergency, or whatever the case may be. So, those are just have a plan. That includes a communication plan and also know 2 ways out of every room. And then have a disaster kit, be prepared for any kind of emergency. And, and unfortunately we live in a world now where, like in the media now, it's like, carjackings. It's like, man,
that's been very common lately.
Yeah, I know, too common. I mean, it's like, so, you really should be mindful of your, surroundings, situational awareness.
Sure.
No matter where you are. We like to think in Montgomery County those things don't happen very often, but they do happen. And so, what to do if you hear or see a fire engine coming up behind you. Think ahead of time. What's your do or what you can do. I'm constantly, I've got red lights and siren on my car.
Right.
But I'm constantly. I know where fire trucks come. Especially if you live around a hospital. I mean, ambulances are going to be driving on that road. Yeah. So. Think ahead of time, like, if I'm sitting at this light and fire truck comes, that's helpful. Just give you peace of mind too, but it helps us, get to where we're going as well.
Absolutely.
I got to tell you, man, I love that we do these. I mean, we just get
goodness.
so much information. I
am so overwhelmed with a whole bunch of good stuff that I can't wait.
I love it.
To start taking, this stuff a little more seriously, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's really the best way I can put it. And hopefully start, looking at different resources for awareness and, introduce our customers to those resources as well.
Yep.
Because I just don't think that, they look into this stuff enough, unfortunately.
I agree. Yeah.
So
a couple takeaways.
Yeah.
That, from a homeowner's point of view with a family, Most important thing is make sure that you have a working smoke alarm.
Yep.
Preferably on every level of your home.
Don't ignore that battery, right?
That's
That
right.
goes off for a few days.
Typically they chirp at 3 o'clock in the morning, but
Yep.
sorry, but that's the way it
It's
is.
just the way it is.
Yeah.
But if you probably maintain it and take care of it and change the battery now, if you haven't every 10 years, or change the whole device actually every 10 years,
Sure.
that would be fine. But also everybody has a door.
Yes.
Close your door.
Yep.
When you go, close before you doze. When you go to bed tonight, close the kid's door, close your door. It'll make a big difference if in the event that you have any kind of emergency, really. But if you have a fire,
Yeah.
that can make the difference of life and death. But it also kind of is a barrier to the fire and smoke, and the fire won't grow as fast as quick.
Right.
Close
Absolutely.
the door.
Good to
Close the
know.
door.
I'm closing
Close
my
the door.
That's for sure.
Yeah, we always do. So absolutely. I can't thank you enough for being with us today.
Absolutely.
Really, this has
Thank
been
you.
amazing to say the least. So thanks again. Okay. Anything
I
else?
hear that a lot, by the way.
I'm sure you do. No, it's true.
I
It's
wouldn't
true.
have, I know he's joking, but I honestly wouldn't have any doubt. I mean, just
Me either. Yeah.
The value that you provide, I mean, you're probably just so used to it at this point, but it's immense, the value you provide for the community, for us, for our viewers and listeners. I mean, to Gus's point, we cannot thank you enough for taking the time to be here today.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, and certainly, again, for you or any of our residents that want a home safety evaluation, call 311.
Okay.
If you need any information about your fire rescue service, 311 can get you that. But we are really blessed and fortunate to live in Montgomery County. We do have a lot of resources on many different levels, but from a fire safety and public safety point of view, it's a pretty good place to live.
Absolutely.
And work.
No question.
Absolutely.
No
And
question.
typically towards the end of the podcast, we ask, people for their contact information and things like that. I'm not going to do that to you. We'll just leave it at 311.
That's right.
Well, actually, if you have a fire and need an ambulance, call 911.
Not all
There is
right.
that. That'll
Otherwise,
probably be
call
better.
311.
Anything else, really call 311.
I like it.
I love it.
Thank you so much. All right, and this is it. Again, first episode with the the Real Improvement Show, and what a better way to start off the new podcast with the new branding, new name, than with Pete Piringer. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Thank you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you soon.